Picture this: 1,000 tiny gears clicking in perfect unison, each one polished to a mirror shine, never missing a beat. That's my life. Or at least, that's how I've built it to be. My name is Chloe, and at 40, I've spent years crafting a world where every detail fits just so. My home in the quiet suburbs of Portland is a testament to that precision. Every throw pillow aligned, every shelf dusted, every meal planned down to the last calorie. I'm the kind of woman who color codes her planner, who knows exactly where every sock in the drawer belongs. It's not just a habit, it's a necessity. Order keeps the chaos at bay, keeps the questions quiet, and I've gotten pretty damn good at it. I share this life with Daniel, my husband of 15 years. He's the steady hand to my meticulous mind, a man who can fix anything with a wrench and a grin. At 42, he's still got that boyish charm that caught my eye back when we were just kids fumbling through community college. He works as a mechanic, coming home with grease under his nails and stories about the cars he's brought back to life. I love the way he smells like engine oil and determination, the way he hums off-key while tinkering in the garage. We've built something solid, something predictable. Mornings start with coffee at 6:30 sharp, black for him, a splash of almond milk for me. Evenings end with us on the couch, him flipping through channels while I balance the checkbook. It's a rhythm, a dance we've perfected over time. But here's the thing about gears. Sometimes even the smallest one can slip. You don't notice it at first. Maybe it's just a faint tick, a whisper of something off. I've always prided myself on catching those ticks before they turn into something bigger. I've got lists for everything: groceries, bills, even the exact order in which I clean the house. Saturdays are for vacuuming, Sundays for laundry. Daniel teases me about it, calls me his little general, but he doesn't mind. He knows it's how I keep things together, how I make sure nothing falls apart. We don't have kids, never felt the need to complicate the machine we've built. But we've got each other, and that's always been enough. At least, I've told myself it is. I wasn't always this way, you know. There was a time when I'd leave dishes in the sink for days, when I'd lose track of time chasing daydreams. But life has a way of teaching you lessons, doesn't it? Somewhere along the line, I learned that control is the only way to keep the ground from shifting under your feet. So I tightened the screws, locked everything into place. Daniel gets it, or at least he pretends to. He's the one who balances me out, who reminds me to breathe when I'm triple-checking the locks at night. This morning started like any other, wrapped in the familiar hum of routine. I was in our spotless kitchen, the stainless steel appliances gleaming under the harsh fluorescent light, casting sharp reflections on the countertops. The coffee maker gurgled as I measured out the grounds with precision. 2 scoops, level, no more, no less. The aroma of fresh brew filled the air, a comforting anchor to the start of my day. I glanced out the window at the gray Portland sky, already mentally ticking off my to-do list. Dust the living room, reorganize the pantry, double-check the grocery order for delivery. Everything in its place, just as it should be. Then, out of nowhere, a loud hiss sliced through the quiet. I froze, coffee scoop still in hand, my heart giving a little jolt. What the hell was that? Before I could even process it, I felt a cold shock at my feet. Water pooling around my slippers, spreading fast across the pristine tile floor. I dropped the scoop, the clatter barely registering as I bent down to look under the sink. Sure enough, a pipe had burst, spraying a fine mist of icy water everywhere. My perfect kitchen, my controlled little world, was suddenly a soggy mess. Panic clawed at my chest. This wasn't on the list. This wasn't supposed to happen. I scrambled for towels, yanking open the cabinet with more force than necessary, my hands shaking as I grabbed every one I could find. I threw them down, watching the water seep into the fabric. But it wasn't enough. The puddle just kept growing, creeping toward the baseboards I'd scrubbed just last week. My mind raced. How do I stop this? Where's the shut-off valve? I couldn't think straight. My slippers were soaked through now, the chill biting at my toes, but I didn't care. I needed to fix this, to get things back under control.
I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling as I dialed Daniel at work. He picked up on the second ring, his voice steady as always, cutting through the static of my nerves. "Hey, Chloe, what's up?" I spilled it all out in a rush, the burst pipe, the water everywhere, the mess I couldn't contain. He listened quietly, then said, "All right, don't worry, stay put. I've already got a guy on the way. His name's Mark, a plumber I trust. He'll be there soon." His tone was calm, almost detached, like he was reading off a script. It steadied me, but only just. Before he hung up, I remembered his words from earlier this morning, right before he left for the shop. He'd kissed my forehead, his breath warm against my skin, and said, "Just let him in. I trust you." Those words stuck with me now, heavy in a way I couldn't quite place. Trust me to what? To handle a plumber? Or something more?
I shook it off, focusing on the task at hand, trying to mop up the mess while waiting for this Mark guy to show up. I was still on my knees, surrounded by damp towels, when I heard the sharp rap of knuckles on the front door. My heart did a little skip, not just from the mess, but from the interruption of my carefully curated day. I stood, wiping my hands on my apron, and hurried to answer it, my wet slippers squelching with every step.
When I opened the door, there he was, Mark, the plumber Daniel had sent. He was taller than I'd expected, easily over 6 feet, with a rugged build that seemed to fill the doorway. His late 30s showed in the faint lines around his eyes, but there was a youthful energy in the way he carried himself. His brown hair was tousled, like he'd just run a hand through it, and his calloused hands hung loosely at his sides, exuding a quiet confidence. He wore worn jeans, faded at the knees, and a tool belt slung low on his hips, the leather scuffed from years of use. As he stepped inside, I caught a faint whiff of sawdust and sweat, a raw, earthy scent that was so different from Daniel's familiar engine oil. It hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for, stirring something I couldn't name. "Hey, I'm Mark," he said, his voice low and gravelly, with a polite nod. "Daniel called about a burst pipe?" His eyes flicked past me to the kitchen, taking in the chaos without judgment. I nodded, stepping aside to let him in, and he asked casually, "Mind if I take off my sweater? It's pretty warm in here." I managed a quick, "Sure," feeling a flush creep up my neck as he shrugged out of the thick knit, revealing a fitted t-shirt that clung to his broad shoulders and hinted at the strength beneath. I couldn't help but stare as he moved past me, his presence somehow larger than the room itself. He knelt by the sink, his movements precise and powerful, like he'd done this 1,000 times. I hovered nearby, unsure of what to do with myself, watching as he assessed the damage. "Nice kitchen," he remarked, glancing up at me with a small, easy smile. "You've got a good eye for detail." The compliment caught me off guard, and I mumbled a thanks, feeling oddly exposed under his gaze. Then, as he reached for a tool, he added, "That perfume you're wearing, it's interesting." The way he said it, with a half-smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, sent a jolt through me, sharp and unexpected. I didn't even know how to respond, just stood there, my pulse ticking faster than it should have. We made small talk as he worked, or at least he did. I mostly nodded, my words sticking in my throat. He told me about a tricky job he'd finished last week, something about a flooded basement, but I barely heard the details. I was too focused on the way his hands moved, deft and sure, tightening a valve with a quick twist. At one point, as he reached for a wrench on the floor, his arm brushed against my thigh. Just a fleeting touch, accidental, but it stopped me cold. My breath caught, a sharp hitch I couldn't hide, and he glanced up, murmuring a soft, "sorry," that felt heavier than it should have. I didn't step back. I couldn't. My feet were rooted to the tile, my body buzzing with something I hadn't felt in years. The air between us shifted, thick with an unspoken pull I didn't know how to fight. It was like a wire had snapped inside me. All the control I'd spent years building, unraveling in a single, reckless moment. Before I could think, before I could stop myself, I was closer to him, the damp towels and scattered tools forgotten. What happened next was raw, electric, a short circuit in the tightly wired system of my life. Right there on the kitchen floor, with the faint drip of water echoing in the background, I betrayed Daniel. It wasn't planned, wasn't even a conscious choice. It was a rush, I'm still trembling as I push myself up from the cold, damp tile, my knees shaky, my breath uneven. My hands instinctively smoothed down my wrinkled clothes, as if straightening the fabric could somehow erase the last few minutes, could pull the shattered pieces of my control back together. But it's no use. My heart is hammering in my chest, a wild, erratic beat that I can't quiet, no matter how hard I try to focus. I can still feel the heat of Mark's touch, the weight of what just happened pressing down on me like a physical force. What have I done? How did I let myself fall apart like that? Mark, though, he's infuriatingly calm, as if nothing out of the ordinary has occurred. He's standing now, wiping his hands on a rag from his tool belt, his movements slow and deliberate. He starts packing up his tools, the clink of metal against metal cutting through the suffocating silence in the kitchen. Then he turns to me, holding out a folded piece of paper, an invoice, like this was just another job, just another day. "Here you go," he says, his voice steady, almost casual. But when I take it, our fingers brush and his eyes meet mine, lingering just a second too long. There's a glint there, a knowing look that sends a fresh wave of heat and shame coursing through me. It's like he can see right through the facade I'm desperately trying to rebuild, like he knows exactly how far I've fallen. I force myself to look away, clutching the invoice so tightly the edges crumple in my grip. My gaze drops to the floor, to the wet tile still glistening underfoot, the remnants of the burst pipe and everything else. The cold seeps through my slippers again, a sharp reminder of the mess I couldn't contain. Both the literal one and the one I've just made of my life. My limbs ache faintly, a dull throb from the tension and the awkward angle I'd been in moments ago. I rub at my wrist absent-mindedly, trying to ground myself, but it's no use. My kitchen, this space I've spent years perfecting, feels alien now. The stainless steel appliances, the neatly organized spice rack, the spotless countertops, they used to be symbols of order, of my iron grip on every detail. Now they mock me. This room feels like a crime scene, the evidence of my betrayal smeared across every surface, invisible but suffocating. I'm caught in this storm of emotions, torn between the exhilaration of what just happened and the dread that's clawing at my insides. My mind keeps replaying those frantic, heated moments, each memory sharper than the last. I see the way Mark's hands moved, not just on the tools, but on me, the way I let myself lean into it, the way I threw every rule I've ever lived by out the window. How could I do this? How could I cross that line with a stranger, right here in the heart of the home I share with Daniel? Daniel, who trusts me, who kissed my forehead this morning with that quiet, steady warmth. The guilt is a physical ache, a tight knot in my chest that makes it hard to breathe. But there's something else there too, a dangerous thrill, a part of me that's still buzzing from the rush, and I hate myself for it. I try to shake it off, to focus on something, anything else. I glance at the clock on the wall, 11:47. Time has slipped away from me, another thing I've lost control of today. The air in the room feels heavy, thick with the scent of damp towels and the faint musk of Mark's presence. He's still standing there, watching me, and I can't tell if he's waiting for me to say something or if he's just drawing out this unbearable tension. I open my mouth to speak, to fill the silence with some meaningless small talk, but the words die before they even form. What could I possibly say right now that wouldn't sound hollow, that wouldn't betray the chaos in my head? And then I hear it, a faint click at the front door, a sound so small but so piercing it cuts through the haze in my mind like a knife. My stomach drops, a sickening lurch that steals the air from my lungs. I know that sound. It's the way the latch catches when Daniel comes home, a tiny quirk of our old door that I've heard 1,000 times. My eyes dart to the clock again, 11:52. He's early, too early. My heart slams against my ribs, each beat louder than the last, as I stand frozen, still clutching that crumpled invoice like it's some kind of lifeline. Mark notices the shift in me, his brow furrowing slightly, but he doesn't say a word. He just steps back, casually slinging his tool bag over his shoulder, as if he can sense the storm that's about to break. The door creaks open, a slow, deliberate sound that drags out the tension until it's almost unbearable. I hear the familiar rhythm of Daniel's steps before I see him, measured, unhurried, the click of his polished work shoes against the hardwood in the entryway. My mind is a whirlwind, scrambling for excuses, for some way to explain the unexplainable. How do I even begin to hide this? The damp towels are still strewn across the floor, the air still heavy with the aftermath of my betrayal. I can't breathe, can't think, as I wait for him to appear in the kitchen doorway, and then he's there. Daniel steps into view, his broad frame filling the space with a quiet authority that's always been his. His face is unreadable at first, those gray eyes scanning the room, taking in the mess, taking in Mark, taking in me. I brace myself for the explosion I'm sure is coming. Anger, betrayal, the kind of hurt I've seen in his eyes only once before, years ago, during a fight I thought we'd never recover from. But it doesn't come. Instead, there's something softer in his expression. Something almost resigned, like he's been expecting this moment for longer than I realize. A flicker of pain dances in his gaze, sharp and fleeting, before it's buried under a mask of calm I don't understand. He doesn't rush in, doesn't raise his voice. He just stands there for a moment, then moves toward the counter with a slowness that feels deliberate, almost ritualistic. He sets his lunch bag down with such care, such precision, that it's like he's delaying the inevitable, giving himself time to process whatever he's feeling. The soft thud of the bag against the countertop echoes in the silence, louder than it should be, and I flinch, my hands trembling at my sides. I want to speak. To say something, anything, to fill this suffocating void. But my throat is tight, my words trapped behind a wall of guilt and fear. When he finally speaks, his voice is quiet, steady, almost too calm for the weight of the moment. "So you can still feel?" he says, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that pins me in place. Maybe not all is lost. The words hit me like a punch, unexpected and raw, stripping away every defense I've tried to build in the last few minutes. I'm stunned, my mind racing to unravel what he means. Feel? Feel what? The passion I just threw myself into with a stranger? The guilt that's eating me alive right now? Or something deeper, something I've buried so far down I don't even recognize it anymore? There's no shouting, no accusations, just this haunting acknowledgement of something I thought we'd both agreed to ignore. My capacity for emotion, for mess, for anything outside the rigid lines I've drawn around my life. I stand there, rooted to the tile, my hands shaking so badly I have to clench them into fists to keep from falling apart completely. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Mark shift, his discomfort palpable now. He mutters a quick, awkward goodbye, something about the job being done, and slips out of the kitchen without looking back. I hear the front door click shut behind him, the sound final, leaving me alone with Daniel's piercing gaze. The weight of it is unbearable, like he's seeing straight through me. I'm standing here, alone now, on the wet kitchen tile, the chill seeping through my slippers and into my bones. The air feels heavy, saturated with the sharp tang of metal from the tools that were just here, mingled with something darker, something like betrayal that I can't wash away. Daniel's gaze still lingers in my mind, even though he's gone. Walked out after those cryptic words without another sound, leaving me in this suffocating silence. The front door's click as he left echoes in my head, a final punctuation to a moment I can't undo. I'm not sure how long I've been standing here, rooted to this spot, but my legs feel like they might give out if I don't move soon. The emptiness creeps in, not just from his absence, but from something deeper, something I've been ignoring for far too long. It's like the walls of this house, this perfect little cage I've built, are closing in, pressing against my chest until I can barely breathe. I glance down at the floor, at the damp patches that haven't dried yet, the towels still bunched up in haphazard piles. It's a mess, just like me. I spent years making sure every inch of this place was spotless, a reflection of the control I thought I had. But now, looking at the chaos, I see it for what it really is, a facade. Our life, Daniel's and mine, it's been sterile, hasn't it? Polished to a shine, but cold underneath. Maybe that's why I've clung to it so hard. Not because it made me happy, but because it kept me safe. Safe from feeling too much, from risking the kind of pain that comes with letting go. I've been hiding behind schedules and lists, behind the hum of routine, thinking it was enough. But standing here now, with the ghost of what I did still burning under my skin, I wonder if that sterility was just a shield against wounds I didn't want to face. Wounds I didn't even know were there until today ripped them open. My eyes drift to the sink, to the pipe that's been fixed, at least on the outside. Mark did his job well. There's no more leaking, no more spray of icy water to disrupt my day. It's mended, tightened, functional again. But as I stare at it, I can't help but see it as a mirror to my own state. Patched up on the surface, sure, but what about beneath? What about the cracks that can't be seen, the ones that run deep, waiting for the next burst of pressure to split everything apart again? I've spent so long trying to keep everything together, to prevent any kind of rupture, but maybe I've only delayed the inevitable. Maybe this, everything that happened today, was the real break, the one I couldn't predict or control. And now I'm left wondering if anything can truly be fixed, or if some things are just meant to stay broken. I let out a shaky breath, my fingers still clutching that crumpled invoice Mark handed me. The edges are frayed now, worn from how tightly I've held onto it, as if it's some kind of anchor. But it's not. It's a reminder, a piece of paper that carries the weight of my shame and something else, something I'm almost afraid to admit to myself. Because the truth is, as much as the guilt gnaws at me, as much as I can still feel the sting of Daniel's quiet words, I don't regret what happened with Mark. Not completely. There was a rush in it, a surge of being alive that I haven't felt in years, maybe ever. It was like waking up from a long, numb sleep, feeling my heart race for something other than a missed deadline or a misplaced item on my list. Even if it cost me everything, my marriage, my carefully constructed world, I can't deny that part of me liked it. That part of me craved it. And that scares me more than anything, because it means I'm not who I thought I was. I'm not just the woman who needs order to survive. I'm someone who's been starving for something real, even if it means embracing the chaos and uncertainty that come with truly living. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.